Now, tell me more about Dr. Fox. What does she do?
Okay. Well, in 2002, in fact, I've got it here with me so I can give you the exact date. It was July the 8th of 2002, and Dr. Fox, this was after Noah was brought home by his grandmother, and he was begging and pleading not to go, and not to go back for the visit. Well, she had done an exam. They had a weekend visit for the 4th of July, is what it was. And when he came home, he was saying that, here's his exact words, it says, first spoke with mother, states that her child said, Fred put his finger in his butt. And this was on tape, because I had a tape recorder on me at the time. States he was hysterical every time that he has to go for visits with his grandparents or his father, and told his mother that she could go for the visits and he would stay home. She said that I had told her that Noah was fearful to bathe. This was before we knew what they were doing to him in the bathtub, though. And then it goes on, and she says that she asked me about his behavior, and I explained that even during a diaper change, men cannot change his diaper. My husband, any men, his brothers would go to change him. He did not want men to do it. He wanted a female. Me, my mother, my sister, or someone like that. When she'd done the exam, she says that she found rectal dilation, bruising outside at the 12 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position, and small area of bridging at the 12 o'clock position. Possible sexual abuse. Sent Noah to see Dr. Martin, and he's to see him tomorrow. Reported this to Denny Cart at the Grant County Child Protective Services. Says on interviewing Noah, he was very engaging, answers her questions well. However, he does say a lot of I don't know, which is age appropriate for this stage of development. Every time I tried to steer conversation around Fred and Mary Ellen, the child started to do nervous behavior, played with the strings on the gown, lowered his head down, and would not make eye contact. He would change the subject. Child is very cooperative in the exam until I opened his diaper. He becomes combative and crying a lot. He got very upset when I put the glove on for the exam. Mother states, this is what I stated to her, that he has started stuttering, has become quite frequent, and let me make out what she says here. Having behavioral changes as well. Yeah, having behavioral changes as well. And that was July the 8th of 2002. Next day, July the 9th, this is Dr. Henry Martin.
You're reading from official court records, right?
Yes, and doctor's reports.
Okay.
So went ahead and I took him to Dr. Henry Martin, as she had referred us there, called Dr. Henry Martin and set it up. It says, telephone contact Dr. Fox, from Dr. Fox on July the 8th of 2002, physical examination indicating bruising in his bottom and anus area, indicating a high likelihood of sexual molestation. Noah was able to express today that Fred touched his pee-pee and Bart touched his pee-pee, and both Fred and Bart touched his pee-pee and butt, and it hurt. In each of those instances, he pointed to his penis area and to his bottom. These allegations for sexual abuse have been reported to Child Protective Services in Grant County, to Denny Cart. And we used the rest of the session to process how Mother is handling the situation and to focus on normalization of play activities with Noah.
It sounds to me like Dr. Fox and Dr. Malkin have done the very best in the law to get this child help.
Yeah.
Yes. They have testified in court. In fact, Dr. Fox had testified twice, but in 2003, when Noah was brought home by his grandmother and our pastor was sitting on the couch and had called Dr. Fox to do the examination and to find out what was going on and if he had been abused again. She refused to do that examination and referred him to Riley Hospital because her exact words to us was, this judge, Judge Jessup, is not listening to my recommendations, and I've told him that Noah has been sexually abused, and he continues to send Noah back into this environment. I think we would be better off if we had another doctor from Riley do this exam. So when we went down to Riley and they tried to do the exam, they couldn't do the exam because he was too hysterical. So we just decided that we would just have the doctors and the nurse testify to what they witnessed and what they'd seen and what they heard from Noah, and him saying he didn't want them touching his pee-pee and butt and hurting his pee-pee and butt. And so August the 28th of 2003, when we went back to court, because I refused to send my son back for visitation, and these doctors were to testify for us, Judge Jessup would allow them to testify. He didn't allow myself, my husband, our pastor, Dr. Fox to testify to why she sent him to Riley and that she didn't do the exam. She only let Child Protective Services from Cass County testify, and they hadn't even done an exam. They hadn't done a investigation, or the state police. They hadn't done an investigation either on this case, and in fact we got a report from both stating that they refused after the first incident that they were not going to do anything. They were not going to investigate this case at all.
We have to ask ourselves an important question. What pressures a judge like Judge Jessup to refuse to listen to people, to allow child abuse underneath his very nose, to allow state troopers not to do their jobs? What terrifies him so much that a prosecutor says, no, don't touch this one? The mind tingles with possibilities, doesn't it?
Yes. We're, in our minds, we're wondering, is there something that these people have on this judge? There should be questions to why this judge allowed this to happen, why the state police didn't do their job and investigate, why wasn't Noah protected, even to the fact that they could have taken him from our home and we would have been fine with them putting him in a foster home and doing a thorough investigation of our home and his father's home, the grandparents' home. We had asked for a psychological eval. In fact, I've got that with me too, that we had asked for that, and the Turners said that they didn't want to do a psychological eval because it was offensive to them. But we had agreed that we would pay for ourselves doing the psychological eval if it came down to it, but we needed it done by the grandfather, the grandmother, his father, and by anybody that was in our home.
One must wonder what the Turners would have found so offensive about this psychological profile.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to us. We just felt we had nothing to hide, and the only thing that came to us was, what do they have to hide?
Now, you have asked this judge to step aside a number of occasions, I'm sure.
Yes.
And this judge refuses to step aside.
Yes.
He wants to allow this child to be abused.
Yes. We have wanted to get a change of venue, and he has stood in our way to prevent that. August the 28th was the last time we had prepared ourselves because he had told us earlier in May when he had made his decision to let Bart have unsupervised visits, that if I hindered the visitations in any way again, that he would take my custody away, and he would not hesitate to put Noah with Bart. So we knew August the 28th that there was a possibility that that's what was going to happen. So we were prepared, and we hid my son the day we went into court. My daughter at the time was 16 years of age, and Noah was just getting ready to turn 4. Or no, he had just turned 4, and we had him hid with some friends and family. That they knew that if we came back and or we called and said, you know, that it didn't go well, to keep him where he was at, and that's exactly what had happened. The judge that day didn't let anybody from my side testify on August the 28th. No one. Judge made his decision, gave the father
2003.
2003, August 28th, gave custody to Bart.
Now,
and we were told to go back to Grant County. The sheriff was there waiting for us, and there was Bart and his attorney, and they told me to hand over Noah. I refused, and there was a Kokomo Perspective newspaper where the judge, that Judge Jessup's from, is in that area. They came over, followed over, and did the story, and told what they had witnessed. And the sheriff asked for him. Our pastor was there, and I refused to hand him over. And then when they had all left, because the sheriff had spoke up and said that the deputy, he said, he can't enforce me to hand over my son or tell where his whereabouts was. So they left. We went to where my son and daughter were at, and we left that night, packed up a small bag, and took my son and daughter and went into hiding.
Let me set the scene here now. We call this the Hoosier Holocaust. Do you agree this is a valid name that seems to apply?
I would say so, yes.
Now, what's even more interesting is some of the paths you took of hiding you and your child from the Gestapo, Judge Jessup, from the evil Judge Jessup, the idea of destroying this child for some unknown reason.
Yes.
You went into hiding, I'm told, for 4 years.
Yes, and during that 4 years, well, in the very beginning when we went into hiding, we stayed with friends, and different families had hit us for approximately a month. We moved around, and during that time, Noah started opening up and telling us more, and we didn't even have a clue. I mean, the stuff we had heard before was so small in comparison to what we found out while we were in hiding, what had been done to him. Like I said, he had told us that Fred and Bart had peed in his mouth. We found that out during the time that it was in hiding. During the time before we went into hiding, we didn't understand why he couldn't eat certain foods, and then after while we were in hiding and he disclosed that, we put it all together. The reason that he would say foods were juicy. He told about being tied up and...
Okay, now what was it you were trying to tell me, because I could only hear bits and pieces of it.
What he said, and then got this belt, this kind of it, and they turn it around like this, and they put it like this, and they pull it like this, and they pull it like this.
And they did what?
And then they flip me down like this.
Uh-huh.
And then they just tuck my pinky and my leg.
Who did this?
Fred and Bart and Mary Ellen.
They put a belt around your leg
Yes.
and hold you down?
Yes.
And where did they do this at?
At their house.
Did they?
Yes.
And where did they touch you? Where? They did?
Because I don't like talking about it.
You don't like talking about it. I don't blame you.
It went into more details. In fact, we found out right before we went into hiding, we hid a camera, which we had hoped to show the video to Judge Jessup when we went into court on August the 28th, so that he could see that we were being truthful and that Noah was in danger. But he refused to even review the tape or see it, and that would have showed an awful lot if he would have seen Noah's behavior when he was supposed to go for visits.
I'm just trying to imagine 4 years on the run. How old was Noah this time?
Noah had just turned 4, and we were in hiding for a little over 4 years.
Now, you were probably in some very cramped places. Having a 4-year-old in a cramped place must have been torture on you.
The one place that we hid when the sheriff, the deputies had come to our home to search was, it was in our closet, and behind a gun cabinet, a little small gun cabinet. We only had a place approximately this big to hide, and Noah would be up as close to me.
Is this still built?
Yes.
We'd like to make arrangements to come up there and take some pictures of this.
Yes.
Have you ever read the Diary of Anne Franks?
Yeah, in fact, I told my husband during the time we were in hiding. I said, that's what I felt like, that we were hiding for our lives, that we were hiding to save him.
How did Noah take to captivity? It must have been terrifying for him.
Well, he was scared of being found. He would tell us that he didn't want to go back. And so during the time that we were hidden in this little small area where the gun cabinet was at, he didn't make a peep. He didn't move. We were there as long as 45 minutes at one time. waiting for the deputies to go through the house and do their search. And he never moved at all, never complained. We had, in fact, where we were hidden, there was no heat. There was in the wintertime because it was a confined small space, and there was no cooling in the summer. So we would sit there and we would be very hot. But he never complained.
It sounded like you went into survival mode, which happened a lot in Nazi Germany. They had newborns that refused to cry because they knew they cried, they were dead. And this sounds like what happened to Noah.
Yeah, he never complained one time. And most children that age would have been complaining. They were hot, they were cold, they were cramped, or when can we get out? Never once did he ever complain.
I'm not going to ask particular names, but I imagine you probably had the unwilling help and advice of doctors, police officers, people suggesting, how do you hide better? What else could you do?
We'd had several that had said that we needed to go into hiding, and we had ones who were officials who said you need, and even told us to even go out of the country because they knew, they believed that Noah had been abused.
Now, during this 4-year period, how many times did you have to hide away in different rooms or different?
Oh, we hid so many times that I can't count. And it was over 4 years, and there was umpteen times. When it first happened, I would say we probably hid 30 times because it was several times. They would come like twice a week at the very beginning and check the home. They would.
Now, is this the Howard County Sheriff's Department?
No, this was Grant County.
Now, I'm sorry. I would think this sounds like you had some real stupid officers that didn't know how to do a good search.
There was.
Part of it was the fact that they didn't even know what was going on.
They told my husband that they didn't even know why they were there.
Other than to
they were
look for
just
her.
to look for me. They were never told that I had went into hiding with him because of him being sexually abused, or that was the reason that I was hiding him. They were just told that there was a warrant for my arrest. And that was another thing that later on we got to know some of these officers, and they knew, after they knew the truth, they stood by us. They've been awesome. Grant County Sheriff's Department has stood by us when they found out what was going on. And they said some of the red flags had went up when they seen that they had $250,000 cash bond that was put out by Judge Jessup for me.
By the judge himself?
Yes. That was on a contempt charge and nothing else. And they said they knew then that there was something that was definitely going on that wasn't right.
Now, you weren't hiding, but you were the one that was public. What were they doing to you during this time? You must have felt like you were being crucified.
No. Other than them coming to the house and wanting to search the house, I wasn't questioned in any way. They weren't really pushing the issue to speak of.
I think some of them knew something wasn't right, and I think that's why they didn't push it.
Mm-hmm.
I complained to the Sheriff's Department on 2 different occasions. One, working nights, I was in bed and was awakened 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe, by the Sheriff's Department. They said that someone had called them and said that they saw her drive in our car, which our car had been parked in the driveway since 11 o'clock that morning. They came in, looked through the house, and I called the Sheriff's Department the next day complaining that someone had filed a false report and saying that they saw her driving in that car. It wasn't long after that, I believe there was like 3 cars that showed up, and a female officer from Grant County Sheriff's Department said that she saw her go out and get a newspaper out of the newspaper box. And I told her then, we don't get the newspaper. We don't even have a newspaper box.
So there was an officer that was paid to lie, obviously.
Something
She
was
saw the
right.
neighbor, is what she saw. And I tried to tell her that. We had heard later on from other officers that this particular female officer is right about everything. Even when it's conflict with other officers, she's always right.
Yes.
So,
but instead of
right
apologizing and saying, well, we're sorry you didn't have...
She saw a lady carrying a small child, which was a lot smaller than Noah was to begin with.
2.
And
Noah's 4.
And physically taking a paper out of a paper box and walking back up towards the house. She said she could only see so far, and then she lost her. Well, we didn't even have a paper box, so there was no way she could have seen her take a paper out of the box when we don't have one. Instead of apologizing, they wanted to go through the house, which I allowed it, and then the next day I called the sheriff's department again and complained that it was this time one of their own officers.
Well, then tell about the search warrant.
And yes, there was an officer that had showed up with an envelope that said that he had the right, by this paper, I have the right to search your home.
He said he had a search warrant.
Which I allowed him to search the home because they'd done it on numerous occasions anyway. So, and complained about that.
He called the sheriff's department and told them, because I told him, I said, our Fourth Amendment right is that we have if he did have a search warrant, they've got to leave a copy with us. So I told him, I said, you need to call the sheriff's department and you need to ask and request that search warrant. The sheriff told him, said, sorry, there was no search warrant, that he would take care of it. So there, it was something that should have never even happened.
But I can't say as I've ever had any fear of any problems coming my way.
So what finally brought this to a head? What made you come out of hiding?
Well, it was right around Christmas. It was December the 3rd of 2007. And what had happened was I told him, I said, we need to get, while I was in hiding, we would only leave at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody was asleep, so that we could leave and no one would see us. We would get in the van and take off, and then we would come back at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when everybody was asleep again, and then get back into the house.
And we kept the van in the garage.
And we always kept our van in the garage, so no one ever knew whether or not we were there or not. But we went to go Christmas shopping, and I wanted to do it in the beginning of December before it got really a lot of people out there. Well, someone had called and told that we were in the area, and the police were waiting for us when we got home. We were coming down the road, and several office cars had blocked us in, came in behind us, and they had at the end of our road, across the railroad tracks, they had cars sideways. It was like I was the biggest.
You were Jesse James.
O.J. Simpson.
Now,
and they were after me.
They had all these officers. You were not armed, I'm sure,
no.
Against a man, a woman, and a child.
Yes.
This speaks well of their bravery. Anyway, so Judge Jessup must have thrown the book at you.
Oh, well, in fact, I was in jail with a $250,000 cash bond, and we believe that it was a senator who stepped forward and got my bond reduced, because we never even had to go to court to get the bond reduced. It was reduced from $250,000 to $50,000.
Who is his hero?
I believe my hero is Senator Tom Weatherwax, and I feel indebted. He may not admit to it, but we were told later. Tom had talked to my husband, and he had said that when he seen my name in the newspaper, he was livid. He was so mad that I had been arrested, because he'd been trying to help my husband during the entire 4 years that I was in hiding to get the truth out. And he had contacted, he was trying to get Judge Payne to do something. He was trying to get other people to investigate this, because he knew that something wasn't right. This was Senator Tom Weatherwax lived in Cass County, Logansport. That's where he was from, so he knew that area. And he had told my husband, he said that, he got a hold of his secretary the next morning when he had seen my name in the paper, told her, you get a hold of Child Protective Services right now and you tell them not to put this child with this man, and that with Bart, and that put this child back with with me. And then I talked to Child Protective Services while I was in jail, and they confirmed that also, that his secretary did contact them and told them that no one needed to be put back with us, and that what I was doing was trying to protect him, and that there was more to it and there needed to be an investigation.
So you paid for 4 years, probably cost the state a couple $1 million trying to keep coming after them all the time, and it ended up that you got out without serving any real time in jail, or?
Well, I ended up serving from December 3rd, 2007 to March 7th of 2008. I was in jail that entire time because every time that we would try to get me out, we'd bond out, there was roadblocks put in our way stating that the bond had not been reduced and that it was still $250,000. So we tried getting a court date, and they would put the court date so far ahead to keep me in jail that it was February before we actually went and got it in court and got it to where we found out that it had actually been reduced.
Indiana has a long history of having dysfunctional family judges. It sounds like Judge Stephen Jessup is at the very top of that list as being Indiana's #1 dysfunctional judge.
Yes. We believe that he needs to be taken from the bench. There's so many children out there that are being abused, and somebody needs to protect them. Somebody's going to be honest and that's going to do their job, and that when we elect these judges, that's what we're hoping that going to happen.
I have to correct myself, is that there is one judge more crueler, more dysfunctional, more incompetent, more just plain old mean, is that Judge Payne, who's now in charge of DCS. So Judge Jessup will make is #2, but it's a very close contest. But we have to give Judge Payne number one standing. He is the most vicious, heartless judge
well, we know
in existence.
That every time we tried to contact him, that we never got any help. Well, it wasn't me; it was my husband trying to get the help. And then my husband went to the governor, Daniels, and drove all the way to Indianapolis to talk to them. And you can explain.
Took all the information to the governor's office. The man I talked to on the phone, and I don't know, I thought his name was Scott also, but...
that was a special liaison for a while, Mr. Scott, between DCS and the governor's office.
Well, the one that I talked to on the phone was very helpful. He suggested that I come down and was very nice on the phone. When I got there, he had given me to Scott that I talked to, and was absolutely no help whatsoever.
No, you must be mistaken. Governor Daniels, he ran on this wonderful platform about transparent government, having an open door policy. Are we talking about the same Governor Daniels?
Same Governor Daniels. I don't know if the information ever, well, I know the information never got any farther than the gentleman I talked to. He basically told me there was nothing that Daniels could do.